Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for Star Wars: Maul, Shadow Lord. Let us have our revenge. Hello, I'm J-Law, but you can call me Justin, and if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of movies, TV shows, gaming, and all things Geekcentric, and all things Star Wars, because this is our spoiler-free review for the latest animated series from a galaxy far, far away, Star Wars: Maul, Shadow Lord. A force hug to our friends at Disney Plus Canada for setting us up with these episodes early for review. Now, I can't do this alone, so I'm calling on my crew, or rather, my Bad Batch. Megan Chambers, Darcy Hudson, and Nate Shelton. How are you?
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we'll have revenge.
Going old school.
Not as good as yours. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Different version.
Different version. That was the Peter Serafinowicz edition. Yeah.
How we all doing? How we feeling about having some more Star Wars animation in our life?
Oh, I needed it.
It's always good to have Star Wars animation. New Star Wars animation just is great. So
yeah,
You go a certain time without it, and then when it comes back into your life, you're like, yes, this is what I was missing.
Mm-hmm.
it's exactly it. Actually, you nailed it there. It's like with everything that we've gotten from Star Wars, it's like, you know, it's been what, almost 2 years since Bad Batch wrapped, maybe less.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So it's been a while. We've had, like, you know, some shorts, you know, Tales of the Jedi,
Yep.
Tales of the Empire.
Tales of the Empire. Yeah.
What was the other one? Tales of the Bounty Hunters? Is or am I making that one up? It was
Star Wars, get on it.
well, no, I think that was
No, we
one,
had like a
'cause-
Cad Bane and
Tales of the Underworld.
Yeah.
Tales of the Underworld.
Tales of
you.
the Underworld, right?
That's
Correct.
the one.
Thank you, Darcy.
Mhm.
But it was pretty much about bounty hunters. Come on, let's go.
Yes.
And I think that we had one in there with Asajj Ventress. So, you know, there was these, like, you know, in between, you know, Bad Batch and this show, we had a little bit of Star Wars animation. But yes, Meg, as you said, it's great when a show can come along and just be like, oh man, this is exactly what I needed in my life. And we got a lot to talk about. So I'm just going to jump in and set up the synopsis. So let's get to that. Set after the events of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, this pulpy adventure finds Maul plotting to rebuild his criminal syndicate on a planet untouched by the Empire. There, he crosses paths with a disillusioned young Jedi Padawan who could be the apprentice he is seeking to aid him in his relentless pursuit of revenge. Star Wars: Maul, Shadow Lord, created by Dave Filoni, based on Star Wars and characters created by George Lucas. The series was developed by Dave Filoni and Matt Michnovetz, with Brad Rao serving as supervising director. The voice cast features, of course, Sam Witwer as Maul, Gideon Adlon as Devin Izara, Wagner Moura as Brander Lawson, Richard Ayoade as Two Boots, Chris Diamantopoulos, Charlie Bushnell, Vanessa Marshall, David W. Collins, AJ Locascio, and Steve Blum. The series premieres on Disney Plus April 6th, with 2 episodes dropping weekly, leading up to the final 2 airing on May the 4th, Star Wars holiday, if you will.
Oh, perfect.
We've
Genius.
been blessed to see the first 8 episodes. You could call it a blessing. You might call it a curse at the same time, because we got to wait
Yep.
before we get those last 2. But we are going spoiler free. There is a lot that has been set up in the trailers. So if you haven't seen those and you really do want to go in blind, then just stop. Go watch the first 2 episodes when they drop and then come back and join us. But, like, we will talk about what is in the marketing from that standpoint. But I think the first thing that we should really just start talking about is the animation, the look of the show. I read an article, or I saw an excerpt from an interview where Dave Filoni basically tasked the team with just elevating everything about this show, from the looks to the overall the way the characters move, to just like the way the clothing looks, everything. And this series looks incredible for it. You know, the painterly animation style really sets this apart from anything we've seen in Star Wars animation before. And I think that it is kind of on its own tier. And like there's a lot of use of like brushstrokes and textural elements, but it's the way these figures move too that's really, really beautiful. Meg, let's start with you. What stood out to you about the animation and the look of this show?
Texture was the number one word that I constantly thought about while watching this show. Not only in the character, like you said, painterly brushstrokes that you can literally see on their faces depending on how the light hits them, but the landscapes
Yeah.
were
The backgrounds.
stunning. Oh my god. And the way that they like use depth of field in this show is also pretty crazy, because the blur effect is not just like a blurred background because you're now focusing on something closer to you. It's this like crazy kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. It goes like fuzzy. It's so cool.
It's actually not like a cinematic depth of field like that's being done by a lens. Like there are instances of that, but what they're doing is they're actually painterly like making that effect, right? Like they
Yeah.
worked with the director of photography to actually give it that look. So you're absolutely right. Like it even extends into giving the cinematics of it like that feel.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I was going to say, I did read somewhere that Joel Aaron, the lighting director, like you're saying, Justin, actually painted on glass to create the matte backgrounds that we're seeing
see it.
in the show across Janix. And it reminds me a little bit of, to a much less extreme degree, the Star Wars Visions episode in season 2, episode 1, which was called Sith, fittingly enough. It's obviously a lot sort of less than that, but I think that it's done in a way that's more sustainable for an entire series. And oh my gosh, Megan, you called it in the face, in the paint, like the just the markings on Maul's face, the lightsaber effects just look unbelievable. This is, I think, outside of Visions, I do think that this is, as far as the mainline Star Wars series go, this is the best it has ever looked, ever.
I mean, it only looks better every time they do something. Like that's
Yeah.
why it's weird that
Mhm.
you're saying it feels so far removed, because I still see original Clone Wars in the bones of
Yes.
this show. Even the way the
Totally.
characters move. Like you're saying, characters are they want to focus on how they move. They still move the way they did when they first did this, introduced this animation and Star Wars and stuff like that. And then these paintings again are going back to the original trilogy when they were doing matte paintings for the backgrounds, and
Mhm.
some of those Star Destroyer shots look like these paintings that we're seeing inside or
Mhm.
in this series, and it's so cool. Again, just the way that it feels so Star Wars just from the ground up, basically, by both the animation and the live action stuff. Just everything is injected into it. And like I said, Star Wars animation just gets better every time they do something. Like
Mhm.
the lighting alone too. Like I feel like we talk about every time we mentioned it, the dappling in the Ahsoka series where we see little baby Ahsoka and the way that the light hits her face through the trees. And now we're going through this city and we're getting Blade Runner vibe, like lighting, and just the way
Yes.
that it feels so warm and gritty and lived in. Like, oh, so good. I love it.
Yeah, I think the idea isn't to your point, Darcy. It's not making anything new. It's building upon what they already had and making it better, which is why I said Filoni's task for the team was to elevate everything that they've already been doing, right? So like even some of the fight and action stuff, portions of it were actually people that they captured and
Mocap.
and would bring into the animation, which again is nothing new, but again there's all these little nuances and little details, even technological advancements that they will come along and help to kind of elevate the look of it. And to your point, yes, this still has the bones and the aesthetic of what we know and love from Star Wars animation and all the iterations, but it is and it does feel drastically different in some ways, and for the best reasons, like for the best ways. It's just evolving the look in a way that feels very, very authentic to what this show is meant to do.
And I love that you mentioned the fact that they use mocap in a lot of the fight sequences specifically, because this is why Star Wars fans that haven't watched animation are missing out. A lot of people love the fight sequences and love to see those happen, and when they do happen really well, best example for me would be in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. There's a fantastic fight sequence in the end of that. Animation you can do so much more with because the laws of gravity and stuff just like don't exist in animation. You can make the force actually work on these characters, so you get epic jumps and flips and crazy like kick twists, and a lot of those moments in this show gave me chills, like full body chills at a lot of the physicality that happened, and you can only do that because of animation.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think again the show is kind of a masterclass at really kind of elevating its style. For me, like the one thing that really stands out is that you mentioned it. I think Darcy, that the world just feels lived in. It's
Mhm.
grittier with all of this texture. The lighting, the shadows are doing a lot of the heavy lifting in a lot of ways, and I feel like it adds to the mood of the show having. It's kind of brooding. It feels a little dangerous. It feels a little edgy, and I think that's very much like it's the perfect look that reflects Maul and his mindset, right? Like even in the way that you talked about, Meg, the brushstrokes in the background and on his face, you know what I mean? Like it really does feel like a marriage of styles to kind of speak to this world and Maul's story. So I love that they've actually done that. But the action too, the action is sharp, and it feels like it's its own spectacle in a lot of ways. Um, the music is also hitting the vibes. I know.
Kiners kill it. The Kiners
Yeah,
always kill
Every
it.
time.
Nate, I'm sure you have some thoughts on the music.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The Kiners. It's nuts. It's like we just keep winning when it comes to Star Wars music. I think no matter your thoughts about any of the storytelling in any Star Wars project, the music is never at the bottom of anyone's list. It is always so high up, and the Kiners are just unbelievable. The very first few seconds of this score, it just hits you like it's electric, and it's gothic, and it's like villainous John Williams at its best. And obviously we all love Duel of the Fates so much, but there are nods to Battle of the Heroes in this score. There's nods to other areas within John Williams' score, and it's just the way that they are able to take that emotion and drive it forward in every single sequence, but then flip it on its head, and we're getting into some cyberpunk, like boom, 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 like beat moving and stuff. Like it is doing stuff with Star Wars that, just like the series in general, I didn't think I needed. And absolutely, man, it is. You got to be listening to this show with surround sound, with headphones. Like it
In
is
the
so
dark.
good in the dark. Absolutely, we'll add to it. No, yeah, the music was unbelievable with this show.
Yeah, I think it adds. Again, it's just another layer to the whole thing that just makes it feel, different. Do you know what I mean? Like, even though it is, Kevin Kiner, and we're very familiar with the Kiners in there, and we're familiar with their score. Each time they attack a show, they bring something new to it, and I think this is an excellent example of that. In a lot of ways, of just how they're up to the challenge, right? Because everything about this show, it just overall, like it feels like, again, we'll get into story, but the sort of crime saga of it all, it feels like something that we've heard about in Star Wars, but we're really getting to see for the first time. In my mind, that in a sort of, I guess, like in a medium of television or movie, but we'll go with television, obviously. Again, it's not your traditional Star Wars adventure, but visually, I think it's committing to having an identity that feels very separate from what we know from other Star Wars stories.
I will also say it to add to Justin's point about the animation feels like Maul. The music feels like
Yeah.
Maul. It's taking scores that we know and love and adapting them to work in this new space, telling this story that we've all wanted to know for a very long time. and creating beautiful background to Maul, but also the other characters' stories as well, because you can tell the music shifts depending on who we're focusing on, which I think is really fun.
I mean, the Kinders have always been good at understanding the characters in the story and then matching their energy throughout their stuff. I mean, we saw it in the Bad Batch, Ahsoka. Literally, any Star Wars they've touched, they've sprinkled the characters into the score as much as the characters are the story type thing. So this one is just again driving home entirely with the Maul moments, and then again we have a Padawan in this story, so we're going to get some of those Force motifs sprinkled in here throughout here as well. And then again with that dark underside brought in because Maul's always in the shadows type thing, which is again a really cool idea for this show. Again, it's just again it's setting itself up to be like this is what we're doing, and you will get it from just they said minute one. You understand what you're in for with this score, and it's going to be a wild ride through both sides. So it's a lot of fun.
And if I'm to make a recommendation, I mentioned wearing headphones earlier. Surround sound, if you have it, I am telling you, I was, watching this in the dark, like you said, Megan, freaking out. Because as we know, when Maul speaks through the Force, it gets creepy, scary, freaky, where he's over here, he's behind you, he's in front of you, he's 10 feet away from you, he's right next to you. And that comes through. I don't know what they're doing with the sound mixing with this show, but it's not something I've heard before in Star Wars animation too much. And they do it in this series. So I highly recommend, if you have a surround sound setup or if you have headphones that have that capability, take advantage of it, because it is unbelievable, the sound design and sound mixing in the show. Yeah.
Cool. Well, you're talking about the man Maul. Let's get into performances. Let's start by talking about Sam Witwer. I think he's doing a knockout performance here. Like there is a real depth to his performance that goes just beyond the rage. You feel the calculation, the pain, the purpose behind everything he does. And I think Witwer he just brings that balance of a controlled menace, but also there's an inner conflict. And I think making this version of Maul, he's so layered, he's dangerous, but he's also fully realized in a lot of ways. And I think that's what we're seeing. Darcy, what did you think of Sam's performance?
Well, I think this is the most we've ever gotten to really know Maul. I mean, he's always popped up in a lot of the animated series and stuff like that, and we've explored his backstory and his, survival after his duel with Obi-Wan in the animated form. But he's again always popped up in other people's stories. The fact that we're getting a story about him this time around, we really get to explore what makes him tick to the most extent we've ever seen, and it's been incredible. Again, he is taking this character to the most, like, so much depth is being added to this character. He's not just an angry guy out for revenge. There's so much more behind this man and what he's been through. And you can feel it with every line he's delivering. There's one more moment where you hear him breathing, doing a series of kata routines as he's practicing with lightsaber. And just, again, there's something about him that I'm getting like almost gray Jedi vibes from, despite him being the Sith Lord. And it's just, it's such a weird thing to be exploring through this story. And I love it.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that Peter Serafinowicz, did the voice in Phantom Menace. Ray Park brought the physicality to the character, but Sam Witwer has been Maul way longer. We, as fans of the character and of Star Wars, have been exposed to his version of Maul. He is the definitive, Darth Maul at this point. You know what I mean? Like all respect to George and Peter and Ray creating that character in that first film, but no, Sam Witwer is Darth Maul, and this show, for his ability to read some of this dialogue, and I'm not cringing or laughing because it is so sort of poetic, right? Maul speaks in it, like one of the lines, my patience for your vacillations wears thin. Like, I don't know too many actors who could do that and make me go like, holy crap, like I'm
It's not
feeling
cheesy.
No, I'm feeling the energy in that moment. It's not cheesy. It doesn't take me out. Sam Witwer is putting on a clinic in this show, and he's just, he deserves all the flowers that we could possibly give him. I mean, he deserves having his own show, and I'm so happy that we get to explore this character beyond just what we've gotten, like you said, Darcy, of glimpses and moments with him in previous animated series.
Yeah, it's absolutely about time that we get to focus on Maul. He's maybe, at least in my opinion, one of the most beloved villains
Mhm.
in
He is, yeah.
almost anything. Like he's so, like you said, multi-layered, so deep. He has so much going on inside of him that makes you root for him. And it's unbelievable. Like, to be able to see him in this capacity as someone who understands patience is so cool. And the way he navigates situations, especially in this show, it's giving me vibes of his interactions with Ahsoka in season 7 of Clone Wars, where
Mhm.
like you think at any moment he just wants to kill her. That's the whole point. But that's not his intention, and it never will be. And it's just really, really explored so beautifully in the show. And I want to talk details, but I know we can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing that is super apparent about, you know, his portrayal in the way he always delivers his lines is that it feels Shakespearean to a degree, in the way that he kind of like plays like this, I guess, tragic character.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're kind of unraveling in this show. I feel like is kind of the tragedy of it all. And you know, you guys have said it best. It's like it's about time that we kind of had a full show where it is focusing on Maul. And yeah, Sam is just bringing this character to life in a whole new way, beyond anything that I think we could have anticipated. But it's exciting too, right? Because like, you know, if they hadn't killed Darth Maul or sliced him in half at the beginning of Phantom Menace, I guess we wouldn't have all of this, right? Who knows what
Mhm.
his trajectory would have been? So it's like it's a benefit and maybe not at the same time, because we'll never know what would have happened with the character if he had not been sliced in half. But it's so great that they found a way to keep him alive and to keep his story alive. And here we are now, just able to like fully embrace you know, this new storyline for him. And Sam is just, he's doing such a great job. Let's talk about Gideon as Devin, the young Jedi Padawan. Meg, I'll throw it to you first. You know, what did you think of her voice performance in this character?
It was beautiful. She's giving a much angrier, less sassy Snips.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
yeah, it reminded me of young
Like,
Ahsoka
she's
as
not
well. Yeah.
annoying the way that young Ahsoka kind of was a little
Yeah.
bit
Mhm.
before you get to know
Oh,
her.
yeah.
And yeah, there's like a deep anger in her that she has to stay reserved and she has to stay hidden and quiet. And she's like, that's not fair. And Gideon does a beautiful job at portraying that through her voice. There's screams and, like, you know, when they're in lightsaber fights and you're grunting and whatever, hers are like, there's power behind what she's screaming at and what she's trying to resist. And it's so cool to see that conflict come through the voice acting in those moments that aren't dialogue.
Yeah, we're getting to see, you know, Gideon play Devin as a kind of almost like a reluctance sort of, you know, attitude with her, right, where she is being told by her master the right thing to do, and she sees herself getting punished for it. She sees, you know, people who are innocent getting punished for doing the right thing, and so it's interesting to sort of see that dynamic brought up with a character also on the other side with Maul, right? And kind of getting that understanding of sort of where the two of them are diametrically opposed, or should be diametrically opposed, but are very clearly aligned as well. No, I think she's a really interesting character. I think this series, or this, so far these 8 episodes, I don't know if I've gotten as much of Devin as I would want to, as like a well-rounded character. It's tough, right? Because we have
Mhm.
Maul, who's coming in as you know, it's this powerhouse character that we know and love. So it's tough to kind of put anyone else in a room with him and sort of go like, wow, they are just as dynamic. But I can see us getting there. This is just the beginning with this character.
That's mostly
Yeah.
the point of her character, is to like everything that we've gotten in these 8 episodes are really, breadcrumbs, right?
Mhm.
Of who this character is, and learning small amounts. And that's, again, when we get to story, we can talk about it, but there is a slow burn mentality to all of this, right? Like the character that we know the best in this show is Maul. Everyone else is we're slowly unraveling and we're learning more about. So, Devin is definitely one of those characters, and I think, like you were saying, Nate, like I think the idea of how she would be so opposed to the ideologies of what Maul is saying at this time, at where the Jedi are, she kind of sees an alignment there. She sees like there might be something that he is speaking that is of truth, that is, that draws her in a lot of ways. Darcy.
Yeah, I think Gideon did a great job again being this Padawan in a time after the Order 66. So we're seeing the Jedi at the weakest, the Empire at the strongest. She's probably, again, these emotions are all still very fresh to her. It's probably the
Mhm.
worst time for her to run to someone like Maul, where he can kind of manipulate her through those emotions. But again, like you were saying, Meg, she really sells a lot of these emotions. The grunts, the battles, stuff like that we're getting through here are really good. And you also mentioned Snips and how you had that energy from her. I at least liked her more than I did when I first met Ahsoka, because I
Yep.
hated Ahsoka for the first few seasons, and I still do when you go back and watch them. They suck. She sucks. It's awful. It's when she needs to learn, like you. She didn't go through anything to become a character at that point when she's young and snarky and stuff like that. And now we're at this point where this character's been through stuff, so she doesn't have any of that stuff that you whiny nature to her. She has seen shit and she knows what she wants to do about it. And I think that's really awesome. And I hope we get more of her story going forward, because it's really cool.
Oh, we will get more of her story,
Mhm.
100%. But I think the one thing that you guys are kind of touching on that really stood out to me is that there's a confidence and a strength in her performance, in Gideon's performance of Devin, that that we see, right? And or
Mhm.
we get to hear. And I think that immediately defines her character as someone that is capable and grounded. But she is still uncertain about the path that she is walking. And I think that's the most interesting part. And the idea that you can kind of get that from her voice, along with the way they animate the character with her looks and the way her eyes kind of like, kind of react to specific moments and things that happen. It shows more about this character being in a place of not really understanding what is the right path at this moment. Do you know what I mean? Post
Mhm.
Clone Wars. So I think that says a lot about like her performance working with the animation and how they've kind of rounded out. And yeah, like I can't wait to see more of this character and learn more about her past and how she has sort of come to be, because, inevitably, if we fall down that road of Maul taking her on as an apprentice, which is probably going to happen, I'm sure we'll probably unravel some of those I guess hidden traumas, if you will, or hidden moments that
Mhm.
will kind of expose more of who Devin is. Um, okay, let's move on to one of them. Like I don't know, like this was a huge get, but Wagner Mora,
Come on.
Oscar nominated actor, Wagner Mora is a huge get for this show, and he absolutely delivers as Brander Lawson. I think as a detective driven by justice, and he still distrusts the Empire. He brings a commanding sort of performance, and I think his energy really helps to kind of anchor this show as a bit of a crime drama, like, because he is that like detective.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's killing it, absolutely. Nate, we'll start with you. How do you think about this kid? What do you think about Wagner's performance as Lawson?
I mean, it's like you said, he's Oscar nominated Wagner Mora. Like it's just the depth of his voice, the way that he's able to attack these scenes. I think he's such an excellent addition, and he actually reminded me a lot of Jim Gordon, like in
Yeah,
Batman, right?
yeah,
And it kind of is that sort of vibe, that tone of like the he's working within an establishment that he knows is doing the wrong thing, right? And again, it kind of fits within where Devon is. It fits within where Maul is, and it's just such a beautiful sort of way that they're working in these characters and bringing them together. And yeah, I just think Wagner Mora, he just has that gravitas about him that he's able to deliver on a character like this, and it's just like, we got him in Star Wars. Like, that's so cool. And I know Star Wars is a big deal and we always, whatever, but it's like, we talk about the Oscars when it's Oscar season, but to have an actor of his caliber come over and do this is fantastic. He's so cool. Immediately I was just like, this guy's really cool. Just writing my notes. I was like, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, I think he's an incredible addition to this show. And again, I was interested to see how they're going to tell this story about Maul, if it was just going to be a Maul story. And I'm glad that we are getting a lot more characters that are going through similar conflicts of internal battles, if you will. And just the way that, again, he grounds the show so much. Like whenever he shows up and he's trying to track down this lead or whatever, he gets into detective mode. It feels good, and you believe every word he's saying, and I totally agree with you. That vibe of Jim Gordon in the established type thing, even though his establishment is good, it's the upper establishment that they're worried about in this situation, which is really cool. And again, I think a lot of what I like about his character is also the mentality, or some of the banter we get at times with his partner Two Boots, which is just like, I love a good droid in Star Wars. So I don't know, it's just Wagner Mora riffing with Richard Ayoade was not something I had in my 2026 bingo card, but I'm glad we got it. So yeah, it's incredible. I love him in Star Wars.
Just really quick with Richard Ayoade.
I mean, not really quick.
Right.
Let's talk about him.
Let's talk about him. Okay, cool. But I just want to jump in and say because we recently just reviewed the Super Mario Galaxy movie. And in that movie, there is a moment where Charlie Day is just like, Luigi is just Charlie Day so clearly. And there is a moment in this where, let's just say, Two Boots is like pretending to be mad at a prisoner that is just Richard Ayoade, and it is so good. He comes through the character of Two Boots in that moment, and I love that we can have this show that is so gritty and dark and mature, and yet we still have a little quirky droid aspect. You know what I mean?
Well, I think one of my favorite things about Richard Ayoade too is we've had British gentlemen voice droids before. It's kind of the go-to for Star Wars, but there's always some modulation added to their voices. I don't think there was anything added to Richard Ayoade. He already sounds like a droid when he talks.
It's just digitized, but it's just digitized
slightly, like the least amount of alterations in a droid we've seen. I love him though. It's great. Yeah, he is a droid. He's perfect for Star Wars.
Yeah, he's literally the perfect casting for a droid.
Oh, he's perfect. Yeah.
Nate, you said, this one moment was Richard Ayoade. The whole of Two Boots
every time we see him,
Richard Ayoade.
Sure, yeah.
He's just missing the curly fro. Like,
yeah, exactly. Also, his boots. I want a pair. And let's talk about the fact that he also has some conflict going on. Like, that is the theme of all of these characters.
Mm-hmm.
And Richard Ayoade plays a beautiful version of that within a droid who is a rule follower, but also still, connected.
He wears boots. He has feelings. He has a personality.
Yeah.
And we get to see that, which is so cool in droids. I love it.
I love the fact that he has these two boots that he's like super passionate about. And I think that's one of the genuine things about his character. And I think that there's something about the boots that means a lot to him. That gives him a personality, right? That gives him that separates him from the others. So I think that speaks volumes about him. But yeah, I was going to ask you about him. Is there anyone else from this voice cast? It's a huge voice cast. So who else do you guys want to talk about? I'm going to throw it out to you. I just had those three main plus Two Boots, but I wanted to leave it to you. Meg, I see your hands up. Let's go.
I'm blanking currently on the name of the actor, but Master Daki.
Dennis Haysbert?
First of all, yes, Haysbert.
Yeah.
The moment he started speaking, I was like, I know that voice. Why do I know that voice? And my husband went, Allstate. But not only that, he's done a million other things. But his voice.
Yeah, he's the president on
24.
On 24, exactly.
Yeah.
His deep, intense, demanding voice is a perfect sound for a master in hiding, a guiding, Jedi master, but also the sickest master I've ever seen. And there's a moment in one episode that I got full body chills. My husband and I, both of our jaws were on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
He did such a cool job. And also it worked that he kind of had this monotone sort of way of speaking. It obviously wasn't one tone, but it was never overly emotional, which makes sense for a Jedi master. He was sick. I want to see more of him. I hope he doesn't die.
I yeah, I wasn't too crazy about him off the top, just because I
Okay.
think like no, and I think you're right. Like I think as the episodes progressed, I got a little bit more used to his voice, but I do think that he does have such a distinct voice. There's a lot of characters around him that are giving more emotional range. To your point, though, it does make sense that he would be a little more calm, cool, collected as a Jedi Master. Maybe not necessarily rising to the heights of some of the others that he's surrounded by.
Mhm.
So it makes sense why they would have casted him for this voice. So, at first it kind of struck me as a bit of an odd choice, but kind of thinking about the character and where he's at, it makes a lot more sense. And yeah, he does have some standout moments in the show, along with other characters. Anyone else that you guys really like that stood out to you guys?
I, I gotta say, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed Chris Diamantopoulos in this as Lutivario.
Yeah,
Again, when I saw him before, I'm like, are we gonna get Mickey Mouse in Star Wars, basically? And
yeah.
I'm glad we got this very, wise cracking, almost New York inspired accent from this guy as this underworld boss. And again, the more time you spend with him, the more he grew on me. So I
Mhm.
really liked his performance. Again, playing this guy who's just under the heel of Maul it's enjoyable. One of those snivelly guys that you can't help but kind of laugh at.
I did not realize he was in The Office.
Yeah,
Yeah, boom, my
yeah,
guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And shout out to David W. Collins as Spybot. I think he's having the time of his
Yes.
life voicing
So fun.
this little very like you thought Chopper was saying some crazy stuff. Wait till you meet Spybot. I'll tell you what, he's pretty wacky. But yeah, no, I think this whole cast is doing a great job. And I think again, it's one of those things though where like I want to get to know all of them, as deeply, maybe not as deeply as we now, know Maul over the years, maybe, but at least a little bit deeper as we go into the final two episodes for the show or the season. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, yeah, I think we've talked about as many of the characters as we want to. Everyone else is that we haven't talked about. You'll get to enjoy them throughout the rest of the show. Let's talk about the story though, because I think this is where things really kind of get interesting. Because you know, at its core, this is a crime-driven revenge story. But what makes it compelling is how deeply it explores Maul's intentions in this, I guess, post Clone Wars era. It's not just about revenge. It's about power. It's about control, and I think most importantly, it's about his legacy. And I think the series is really diving into Maul's psyche and showing the character who is kind of like, again, going back to like a Dark Knight reference. It's kind of like the Joker is constantly calculating his next move while also still being influenced by his past and why he had how he moves forward in that. So yeah, I think that the story is just it has such a unique vibe and tone that is different from anything else that we've gotten from Star Wars in some ways. Again, like I was saying before, it feels like this is something that we've always known that existed in Star Wars, but we haven't really seen it fully kind of explored this way. We might have gotten an episode here or there in a show that might have gotten into that, but like this is full on, that dark crime cyberpunky story that we sort of were looking to see. So I love it. How about you guys? What are you thinking, Darce?
Well, I think I'm really enjoying this story because it's exploring how Maul, after the Siege of Mandalore, ends up as the Maul we see in Rebels, which is something that we've all been wondering. How does he go from being this hate-filled, revenge-seeking monster to being someone who's almost mentoring the next Jedi generation within Ezra? So I've always wanted to see how that transition happens, and this series is doing a great job of showing why that transition came about, and how it came about, if you will. So I'm loving it, and again, the fact that we're getting multiple characters going through the same internal conflicts and how they're making these decisions in dire situations and how that's going to affect things going forward it's incredible. And I love how, again, we're seeing these small pockets of resistance against the Empire in all these Star Wars stories, and it's because there were so many small pockets fighting against the Empire that it led to its downfall. They were too far stretched and widely stretched. And that's why I'm okay with more Star Wars stories, is because the more we see the Empire struggling against small factions, it makes more sense why they're struggling against small factions. So this story is an incredible addition to the Star Wars lore, and I'm hoping we get more stuff like this, because this is some of the coolest storytelling we've got in a while from Star Wars.
Mhm.
I think from a storytelling standpoint, you're nailing it, Darcy. I think it's like I will say the pacing is a bit on the slower side, and I think
Mhm.
if you're coming
But
out
for the
of
best reasons. I think
Oh,
it's for the
Yeah.
best reasons.
for sure, and it helps to build the sort of the tension that we're all kind of talking about. But I think the if you're coming from other Star Wars animated projects, just be aware of that, because it is going to be it's going to feel very different. It's going to be very different in tone. I think it's more it's darker, it's more mature. I think for those who really really enjoyed Andor, this is a really really wonderful sort of animated side to kind of get into that more mature, dark, very sort of plodding, if you will, sort of storytelling. And yeah, it's fantastic. I think when Star Wars is able to kind of say, we want to do this, we're gonna we talk about the marketing for the Acolyte and how amazing it would have been if it the actual show turned out to be what the marketing said it was going to be. You have nothing to worry about in that front with
Yeah.
this story. That if you
Mhm.
are expecting what the trailers are showing you, that's what you're going to get, and it is fantastic. It is so worth watching throughout this, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm really loving seeing these really deep, like multi-layered stories from Star Wars. Not that we haven't gotten them before, because they're definitely all very deep and multi-layered, but like to put a villain into a standpoint that you actually care about him. I know that we feel that with Anakin, but this is like a totally different scenario because he was forced into this forced into this situation. Um
I get it.
and like to get more of Maul's backstory in different increments and different ways is really fascinating. And I would urge anybody, if you haven't seen season 7 of the Clone Wars, to watch that before this. Or if you have seen it, maybe do a little rewatch before you start this show, because it's just a nice way to get into the story kind of where it starts. You watch where he just was. um I think that would be a really cool way to watch it. This story is something that I feel very excited to continue watching, and to see new characters pop up in our world that I'm actually caring about is exciting too.
And it's not gonna like just throw a bunch of like member berries at you as well. Like, I think Star Wars sometimes gets a bad rap for like look at over here, look at, we've got this character, we've got this character. There are connections, but the
Mhm.
connections that they're bringing in, you're not expecting, and I wasn't expecting, and I was so happy to get there. And then once you see where this story is ultimately going, oh man, I'm so ready. I'm so ready to explore more of this unexplored side of this story.
Mhm. Yeah. I think the thing that I love about it is the pacing of the show. I think it
Mhm.
feels like, to your point, Nate, like where things can move a little bit faster. I think the pacing feels methodical. It feels deliberate. It is like a slow burn crime drama, and it's building that tension episode to episode. And I think because of that, like you referenced Andor, and this is a more mature, more focused narrative that actually trusts the audience and leans fully into the sort of darker, more internal themes of what's going on. So yeah, I think that it is a good note to say, like, yeah, anticipate this being different from the other Star Wars animated shows if you're a fan of them. But if you are and you've grown up with them, then I think you're gonna really love this show. You're gonna absolutely adore it. Now we haven't seen all the episodes, so
Thank
we're
God.
yeah, we still have 2 episodes left to see. So because of that, we're not gonna give this show a full score review. But I think it's pretty clear we're loving it. I
Mhm.
think we absolutely adore it. And yeah, we might be a little biased because we're huge fans of animation, we're huge fans of Star Wars, but I think the general consensus for the show is people are going to love it. I think a lot of this is going to shoot to the top of a lot of people's favorite Star Wars animated show. I actually just read recently that it is one of the most anticipated shows for April. One of the most
Cool.
anticipated things to be released in April is this show. So I think that there's a lot of buzz and a lot of excitement around the show. So instead, what I'd love to know is if you have any final thoughts overall about the show and what episode you're looking forward for people to see of the 8 that we've seen so far. I will go with Darcy first because Meg looks like she's thinking pretty hard.
I watched them all in a row, so I don't remember what was what.
I actually made a note to write it down, my favorite one, because I messed up this for the Daredevil review, and
Yeah.
I wrote down episode 7 is the one I'm looking forward to people watching. There's a moment in that is Maul jumps between 2 elevated platforms, and it got me excited, but everything around that whole episode is where we really get to start diving in and breaking down what makes Maul this Shadow Lord and why he's doing what he's doing. And I absolutely loved it. So yeah, this show is fantastic. Give me more of Maul's backstory and explain how he ends up wanting to mentor Ezra, who's almost as annoying as Ahsoka.
I would disagree. He's way more annoying.
I don't know. Ahsoka's pretty bad.
So I watched all of these in a row. So it was like one big long movie for me. So
Wow.
I'm struggling to remember which episode, but I'm going to say maybe 3 or 4. But the early episodes really do amp you up to get excited about what's going to happen. And you learn a lot in the first few episodes. So just like watch it, guys.
Yeah, it sets the tone. It sets the tone
Yeah.
for sure, right? Yeah, absolutely. Nate, you got a favorite episode?
Yeah, I think I always do this. It's always the one furthest away for anyone listening, but it is episode 8 for me. I think this is where we, like, Justin, you got to watch these episodes before we did.
Yes.
And you were talking about exploring emotions. Episode 8 explores emotions. And I also, Meg, you're mentioning Master Daki. Bro, there's a moment in episode 8 that Master Daki does some crazy cool thing, and that got me like hyped, and just getting to see certain elements that we've seen in Star Wars before, in let's just say a chase format. I never thought that I would ever, need that in a city environment like Janix, but it is so cool. The way that they are, kind of utilizing the camera in that episode, and just the entirety, like even just the way it ends off, it is so,
and the
so
music
exciting.
in that one,
it's so good. It's so good. At chapter 8 was like, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. It was, that would be the one I would choose.
Yeah. 8 is a really great episode because I think it kind of feels like a bit of a bottleneck episode, because it kind of deviates from, I guess, the trajectory of the other episodes to kind of go more internal, and, like as you said, focus on emotions. But I really loved chapter 6 though, because I think there's some good moments in that that really do, like, as a Star Wars fan, make you go like, let's go, like, awesome.
yeah.
And yeah, it's cool. I think it's funny too, right? Because as the marketing kind of comes out for this show, as we get closer to the date, like, some of it's already being shown in some of the marketing, but rightfully so, because it's some pretty cool moments to see. Well, before we kind of wrap this thing up, anyone have any overall thoughts? Like, any other thoughts on the show of that? Have anything to say, or no?
It's
Watch
so
it.
good.
Just watch
Yeah.
it.
Just watch it. I think watch it. It's a bold swing for Star Wars, and I think it absolutely pays off. I don't, it's that blend of, as you were saying, Darcy, something that we're so familiar with from Star Wars animation, but something that feels new with this like heavy crime drama that's like a character study in a way. It just feels fresh for Star Wars. And I think between all of the great animation and the stunning animation and the performances and just a focused storytelling, I think this is some of Star Wars at its best, and its most ruthless and its most refined. it's very dark, it's stylish, and I think it stands out as one of the most confident and unique stories this franchise has told in years in some instances. So yeah, I'm very excited for people.
So confident it's already getting a season 2. Right. And I think
Correct.
that's going to be great for people going into this show as well, because especially given its pace, Justin, like we were talking about, going in and understanding, okay, this is where we're at with these characters by episode 8, and then who knows where we'll be by episode 10. But even by then, you can be rest assured, hey, at least we're getting one more season of story.
It's pretty clear by episode 8 that it's like, yeah, there's going to be more stories to tell.
Oh, yeah.
Because, this isn't as you mentioned before, it's not the traditional animated story where it's like, we need to conclude these things for this season, and then we're going to potentially get into a new story for season 2. I think this is an overarching long form story that will spread from season to season until we inevitably do get to an end, right? Could be 3 seasons, could be 4, but we'll see. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we do need to see how he ends up in that cutscene from Solo, or that end credit scene, because this happens before that still. So that's chronologically that's the next time we see him. So
well, we know where he dies apparently. So
yes,
we know that.
We've seen him die.
Yes.
We've seen him die. No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
We see where he dies.
Big
so
you said
jump
appearance.
forward,
You act
but
like you haven't seen it. Jeez.
No, I've seen. I know where he dies. Duh. I've seen that episode, but like,
He just
I
pushes
just mean that like
into the back of his skull so hard.
skull,
Like
yeah,
Justin,
for
come
sure.
on.
But again, all of this to fill in that blank of getting him to that point. It's like you said, like how he gets to Ezra and so on and so forth. So there's a lot that this show potentially could answer and showcase that makes for very interesting an interesting I guess like setup for those events to a certain degree, or like intertwining with what's going to happen. So yes, very excited for more of this show. Well, that is it for our spoiler-free review for Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord. If you enjoyed this episode and you are going to enjoy this show, well, you can reach out to us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or you can hit us up on Twitter at GeekcentricYT, or on Instagram and TikTok at We Are Geekcentric. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other great episodes for you to enjoy, like our special Behind the Geeks episode for Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord, which is available now on podcast feeds and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/geekcentric. I had the chance to sit down with Sam Witwer, Gideon Adlin, and the creative team behind this show to dive deeper into talking about character, story, and the striking visual style of this series. So you can catch those full interviews out right now on our YouTube channel and on podcast feeds. And hey, if you're looking for more, we also have our interviews with Daredevil Born Again Season 2 cast, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, as well as the creative team, out now on our YouTube channel and on our podcast feed. Plus, we have a whole bunch of spoiler-free reviews available right now on our podcast feed, including our spoiler-free review for the Super Mario Galaxy movie, Invincible Season 4, Episodes 1-6, and Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again Season 2. There's a lot more to come, a lot more to be excited for, so stay tuned. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Well, Batches, thank you so much for joining me for this spoiler-free review. I can't wait to talk more Star Wars animation with you guys, because I think we're going to be we'll be talking about some more of it. Maybe we'll do spoiler. I don't know.
I think we need to do a spoiler. Yeah, at some point.
There's so many things I want to talk about on this show.
For sure. I think let's do it for let's aim
for those
to
last 2
spoiler
episodes.
Yeah, after those last 2 episodes come out, we'll do it for May the 4th, and we'll see. Maybe we get them early as press. We'll see, but if not, then it'll come out shortly after May the 4th. But guys, thank you so much for joining me for this spoiler-free review. And as we say,
love ya.
Bye.
Laters.
Peace.